So Ireland was my first big trip. I mean, I felt like it was. I had gone to Europe 3 times before, but every time I had somebody to help take care of me, I guess.
If the question comes up, where in the world do I live? I am way over here. People abroad might not know where Boston is.
But I'm 1 hour north, and they probably don't know where New Hampshire is. And I guess I'm 5 hours north of New York City by driving, if someone was to ask.
And I'm here.
This trip started when I was looking for my town library on the internet, and I saw links on Google to Ireland. I had no idea there was a Londonderry, Ireland. Seriously, I had no knowledge of any of it. I just kind of live in this town, I don't know. Travel sites were promoting that all the Halloween in America comes from Ireland and Irish cultures and traditions. All I knew was I needed to get there for Halloween. Looking at the map of Ireland, I knew Dublin existed, but I didn't know where. When looking up airports to get there, you either fly into Dublin or Shannon. Shannon does sound appealing because I've known some hot Shannons in my day, but however, I wanted to see Dublin and it was closer to Derry, so I went there. Everything was a discovery from the beginning. From the airport, what do? You go to the information desk, ask, where's Dublin? How do I get there? And they point you in the direction of the buses. And in order to go on the buses, they might tell you to make sure you get some cash out of the ATM. And I walked a bit down the sidewalk till I saw the first hostel that said something like International Hostel. And it had all kinds of flags outside. And it said vacancy. So I just went in. From this point, I just recall putting my stuff down and wanting to bask in this feeling of freedom and total victory I procured for myself. I hadn't planned anything, I just kind of went, and everything was fine. So I just kind of walked around Ireland for a bit. Seriously, the city was like a whole new world, some sort of fantasy world for me, I guess, because you're always picturing some sort of stereotypes. And basically there were some. There was a lady playing a harp on the street. Like, where the hell was I? At this point in my life, I didn't even know my own town very well. And here I am, in Dublin, Ireland, I don't know. And the first thing I wanted, of course, was a Guinness. You know, it was probably like 9 in the morning, and I was trying to find bars that were open. Trinity College was packed with students, hustling to go to class, and everyone just looked like Americans. I couldn't really tell anything different about it. Marion Square Park was nice. It had Oscar Wilde there and some of his quotes. Let's see if I could do an imitation. A cynic is a man who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. I drink to keep body and soul separate. Man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask and he will tell you the truth. Oh jeez, that sounds awful. I really like this last quote. Lying, the telling of beautiful and true things, is the proper aim of art. Anyway, I was really impressed with everything that I saw, though at times I wasn't sure what I was looking at. And it didn't matter, really. Everything was quite beautiful and mysterious. I guess that is the beauty of traveling. I must have spent $200 on Guinness from morning to night. It was only a year before that I actually had my first drink of alcohol. Or specifically got totally wasted, and I had Guinness only a few times earlier in other places. But I wanted to see how accurate it was that Guinness tasted different in Ireland. It was quite good over there. It was like a smoky chocolate milkshake without the milk or the chocolate, I guess. So, just, you know, the consistency. And I walked for hours, man. By the evening I was quite lost and I had no idea where my hostel was, so I just kept on walking into bars and using the bathroom and getting another beer or two. It was a vicious cycle, actually, but my time in Dublin was mostly me trying to get with a French au pair without any success. Though we hung out at Temple Bar and we had our first Irish coffee together. Like, we were both surprised that it was just coffee and Jameson. We're not, I don't know. Sounds silly now, but we listened to cover bands and we drank lots of Guinness, some Smithwicks, and in fact cider was popular at the bars. The floors reeked of apple vinegar from the spilt cider, which wasn't bad, I guess. Mostly I drank Guinness until I was stumbling though. On my last day, an Irish guy gave me one of these Budweisers and said, "This is the real Budweiser." I don't know. I guess it's because I was American. Basically, in a drunken stupor that night, I slept outside the bus station in the cold. Waking up after a nearly sleepless frozen night, I felt miserable. The next few days, I was extremely sick, just like a dream floating by windows. I stumbled onto the first bus to Letterkenny, where I kind of knew some people from high school. They lived there. In Letterkenny, these friends had a few spare bedrooms, so I stayed in one. And then it brought me on a tour of the northern coast. Radio, just as annoying in Ireland as it is in the US. I had no idea where I was or what I was supposed to be looking at. Were these places famous or is it just beautiful? I don't know. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know if there was a destination, and even after arriving, I didn't know what I was supposed to be looking at. I mean, everything did kind of look cool anyways. And then I realized why we came, this mound thing. Looking at this 2,000-year-old fort, it was built on a prehistoric mound 5,000 years ago. Does that make sense? The mound was 5,000 years old, but the fort was 2,000 years old. If anyone is wondering where I am, I'm at the Stony Place, and this is Gaelic, Irish language. I knew it existed, but I was surprised to see it written. From the bottom of the hill, I wasn't expecting anything special. Once you get up close and see inside, it's actually cool that you can just climb around on this 2,000-year-old structure like this. The stairs were quite narrow.
If I ever see the morning, just like a lizard in the spring, I'm gonna run out in the meadow to catch the silence where it sings. I'm gonna force the Serengeti to disappear into my eyes.
But the view from the top was
And
nice.
when I hear your voices calling, I'm gonna turn just inside now. Well, if I ever get to slumber, just like I'm all deep in the ground, hell, I won't be found. Deep in the dust, forgotten, gather, I grow a diamond in my chest. I make reflections as the moon shine, or turn to a villain as I rest. Well, if
I think it was rumored that those paths ran quite deep inside,
just like I'm all deep in the ground.
but they were so small and narrow that people just said, you know, elves or leprechauns made these forts. Or maybe they just told me that because I was American. So one might ask oneself, what is bizarre about apple juice? Well, let's try it here, okay. Yep, just as I thought. Those are not apple leaves. Dang Gaelic. Got me again. I don't know. Another day, another journey. The next day I was still sick, so they brought me out for that Irish cold cure, which was hot Jameson whiskey with cloves in it. Actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And off we went to fields infested with these fluffy white things. And then the not so fluffy white things. As always, I had no idea where we were going. Well, here's a map. Let's see here. If this is here, and that is there. I think I remember a bay. Yes, yes, and yep, we're lost. Or yeah, of course, we're at Ancrio/Creslow. I've never seen the Atlantic Ocean north of me. I felt so disoriented. Yeah. Doe Castle. Yeah, Doe Castle here. Actually, I had no idea it was a castle. I always pictured Disney's Magic Kingdom castle when I picture castles. The ones from, like, Disney movies, I guess. It didn't have a moat, but it did have a graveyard.
I gathered all the tokens of a passion, people waiting for the promise of a father. Where have you heard of me in the past? John baptized with water, now with wine, but don't weep, he'll make sure. Pricked in the heart the Wednesday after last. And a cash and carry next to Mount Olivet and all around. Megan, Mary, Lisa, Kanisha gave it out to stick with me.
I don't think I saw any does in the graveyard.
The vapor smoke came up from the earth beneath.
Anyway, speaking of the Magic Kingdom. Speaking of the Magic Kingdom, growing all over the place were magic mushrooms. I think they were illegal as they were indigenous or something. We all collected a bunch and made a tea out of it that night. It was only a year before that I started drinking. I'd never smoked before, and now I was faced with magic mushroom tea. I really had nothing to lose, so I drank half a cup. I was picturing it would be like drinking alcohol. Nothing was happening to me, so I just went to a bar and have a few beers. And as soon as I got my first beer, I looked up and the bottles on the bar were like the Indiana Jones movie where he finds the treasure and like everything is like sparkling and unreal. It was really quite beautiful, actually. Anyway, the legend that there was a girl in the tower there looking out to see her lover in a boat in the harbor, and her father forbid the relationship, so eventually she just threw herself from the top of the tower and died. Whether or not the grave was outside was beyond my comprehension of this place, so anyways, at Doe Castle I was surprised you can climb on everything. It was pretty fun. A bit dangerous, but fun. So, in this segment, for some reason I was trying to turn myself into a beer snob or something. I had only been drinking for about a year, and I decided, geez, I'm gonna go on Beer Advocate and become a beer snob or something. Geez, you know, I'm gonna take a notebook and write down my descriptions of beer. And by the end, I'm like, what a pain and friggin' pompous job this is. So I didn't even bother. I was fortunate enough to take a tour of the countryside again.
I've been walking these streets so long.
The colors on the ground were so much more vivid than this picture. Really red, like really red and like deep colors, deep green.
Where hustle's the name of the game, and nice guys get washed away like the snow and the rain. There's been a load of compromising on the road to my horizon, but I'm gonna be where the lights are shining on me like a rhinestone cowboy riding out on a horse.
We were on our way to the guns of Dunry, Fort Dunry.
Like a rhinestone cowboy, getting cards and letters from people I don't even know, and offers coming over the phone. Well, I really don't mind the rain.
The weather it was one of the prettiest places I'd ever seen. The weather was really nice, and the sunset was perfect. As you can see, the video doesn't do justice to this place, but it wasn't supposed to. I was taking pictures with my 35mm camera. Seriously, I knew the pictures would be good. So, the houses look cool. Why did I lose my film? I lost the film after. It was a drunk. So, all I got is this half-assed video footage from my cheap old video camera. And really, the northern coast was amazing. As I said at the beginning, I was from Londonderry, New Hampshire, located somewhere over here. We also have a Derry, New Hampshire, right next to each other. These names come from the town of Ireland that I was heading to for Halloween, Derry, Ireland. At the time, I didn't know anything about why this said Free Derry. Our town sign looked more like this for Derry. Famous for Robert Frost Farms, I guess? I don't know. He's a pretty famous poet. Actually, I've never walked around here. It just looks like a house and grass to me. We also have a pretty popular 50s diner. And, well, it's difficult, really. I have no idea what to show people from other countries. Maybe we just go to Dunkin' Donuts and get iced coffees as big as our heads or something. I don't know. Drive around. This one is a high school. And in Londonderry, well, we got apples. A lot of apple orchards, really. It's kind of a nice place to live. We got like Johnny Appleseed statues at the library. It's kind of pretty here in the springtime. The town center looks like this. I don't know exactly why we have a cannon here. There are no ships or sea or, I don't know, just apple trees. Anyway, on the way to Derry, Ireland, you might see a sign with the Londonderry part crossed off. The history is quite complicated, and even saying that might offend some people. Walking the streets, the atmosphere was very deep. I didn't know, but this is where the troubles started that claimed so many lives. The song by U2, Bloody Sunday, was written about an incident that happened here on the 30th of January 1972. About 14 unarmed civilians were gunned down by the British soldiers. According to the Wikipedia page, Catholics were discriminated against under Unionist government in Northern Ireland, both politically and economically. It has been a complicated road since the beginning, as Ireland was subject to the changing religions of the kings of England. King James I in the early 1600s added London to the name of Derry and put up walls. This Free Derry sign was painted in January 1969, after many incidents accumulating before the Battle of the Bogside. The Catholics were discriminated against and either banned or attacked for demonstrations. So when they protested, the cops tried to break it up, and it turned into riots that lasted several days. This became known as the Battle of the Bogside. Eventually, British troops were brought in to end it, and people welcomed them as a neutral force, but some people, like Bernadette, thought it was going to be trouble. And so it was, the troubles escalated. And peaked on January 30th, 1972. 26 civil rights protesters were shot, 14 were killed, 5 were shot in the back, and 2 were run down by army vehicles. These portraits are of the 14 people killed by the British Army during Bloody Sunday. As you can see, half of them were teenagers. The portraits are encircled by oak leaves, which Derry originally means oak grove. One for each person. This girl was shot in her own street before Bloody Sunday, September 1971. Before and after Bloody Sunday, the British troops were arresting anyone remotely suspected of being with the Irish Republican Army. In August 1971, they arrested 342 people in raids such as this, which sparked riots and killed 20 civilians. After Bloody Sunday, they arrested almost 2,000 people and tortured them without trial. Of course, this caused many to hate the British troops' presence, and kids would come home from school, or on a Saturday they would throw rocks at trucks across the barriers, and they would call it the Saturday matinee. You might say that they shouldn't have been doing that, but peaceful civil disobedience campaigns haven't worked. Protests for civil rights often ended in violence towards those protesting by stormtroopers, so imagine the frustration. As late as 1980, there were hunger strikes in prison, protesting the unfair treatment and false charges brought against them. This guy was at the March of Bloody Sunday, and he survived 53 days without food. But the hunger strikes continued because the British refused to negotiate with political prisoners. If you're gonna ask me what is happening now, I can't tell you, but I'm sure everyone wants peace. Still in the streets, you'll see fresh graffiti. Many people still laugh it off as a headache that they don't want to revisit. Though there were some people that did hold animosity. And it was definitely taboo for some, painful also as they saw friends die. Anyways, that's the history. And I feel it's relevant today. I had no idea about any of it. I really enjoyed the murals. Even the graffiti. I feel Derry, New Hampshire could use some good graffiti or murals or something, I don't know. It gives character, I think. Speaking of which, they did have some cool stores. I'm not certain if those guns are real or what, but it reminds me of the store Headlines in Nashua. And speaking of which, here's something else Derry, New Hampshire could use. Dan. What is this?
What's up?
What's those things?
Nothing.
This is the River Foyle. As people fled oppressive kings and seeking religious freedoms, Derry became an important port of departure towards America, where they started such colonies as Derry and Londonderry in New Hampshire. The walls of Derry were the last to be made in Europe. The walls were never breached either, and thus they were the most complete too. You can drink in public, but it is illegal to drink near the walls. The city coat of arms and the motto, it says at the bottom there, Vita Veritas Victoria, sort of like Harry Potter talk, means life, truth, and victory. I still have no idea what the names of these places are. I just knew the bars while drinking in Derry. After looking at this place, I decided to cross the bridge, but there really wasn't anything outside of the walled city. Actually, the streets were kinda intimidating, and I assumed that it was like Londonderry across the bridge and Derry inside the walls. I don't know. Since it was a few days away until Halloween, I decided to take this sign's advice and travel by rail to Belfast. Seriously, when I picture trains, I picture like the ones you have to shovel coal in and like hobos jump on the back. This is more like a metro or like the T in Boston. And at first it was really exciting to see all the scenery. Like there was a lighthouse in the river. Some sort of castle or big buildings in the distance, mountains, picturesque scenery, farms. Okay, then I realized this is taking longer than expected. There was a Scottish girl sitting next to me, and real Scottish accents are really difficult to understand. Looking out the window, is this ocean or is this the lake? Since it took so long, I think we just went all around the north coast. Really a bit longer than I hoped. In Belfast, it was gray. Everything just seemed gray. Maybe a few buildings had like this brown color, but for my time there was only like a few hours where it wasn't raining. And on this day, we went sightseeing with people from the hostel. The rest of my time was spent like flirting with French girls and like 2 Swedish girls
The
actually.
little kids make this because,
Totally failed miserably again, but
well, look at the handprints. They're so small.
Some of them are a bit more sophisticated. Some are good. They look very like this one.
It's a small foot.
This is 5 or 2003. Not too old. Not many years old. They got cheap. You're only a loser when you quit trying. M. Lowry.
Oh, the dollar bill. It's a tuna.
Big tuna.
oh, and these cranes are landmarks or something.
They were built in 69, 74.
They're kind of cool to look at, I guess. I like the tuna, but they made I guess they made the Titanic here.
74?
I don't know.
Belfast is gonna be famous for something, I guess.
That night I went with some Italian girls to hear some Cajun music. I went with them back to Derry. That's one of the Italian girls. I look like an old man in this picture. Across from me was a Hungarian guy and a German guy named Mario. Now,
Yeah. This is a hostel I stayed at.
people have never been to a hostel have this bad impression of it because in America we don't have anything like this. To us it's very strange, so here it is with terrible camera work. You pay for a dorm bed, it's fairly comfortable there. The bathroom is just down the hall. There are other rooms. You could get like one for 6 beds or 4 beds, maybe 2 beds or less. I don't know. The hostel in Derry was really nicely decorated, and it was just fun to be there, actually. On the post-it board, they give you advice on how to get to tourist attractions. For example, I really wanted to go to the Giant's Causeway, and which kind of looked like this. But I lost my bank card in Belfast, so I needed my dad to wire me over some money. And then when he wired me some money, I didn't know if I had enough to, I just didn't have any money. Well, they have a bus schedule, and they also tell you where to hitchhike from. But as an American that lived a sheltered life, I thought this was crazy. I don't know. I just couldn't. The hostel was very nice. Everyone was friendly. you meet people in the same situation as you. People are traveling alone and you want to get a beer. So you all group together. Oh, here's Halloween. I can't wait. I couldn't wait. It looked like a good celebration. That night we went out to a bar and met some locals. Like locals telling me that they had a humor section in the newspaper that would say how like Derry, New Hampshire was doing. Like big news in Derry, New Hampshire. There's a cat stuck up in the tree or something. Oh, and this guy was funny. He just kept on walking around and telling people, "Oh, touch me bum, give it a squeeze." Maybe I should like try to hide his identity. I don't know. That just. Me, him, and this New Zealand girl went out on a tour of the city that day. I guess Australians and New Zealanders typically take a year off from school and just travel around for a year. We all went out to explore Derry on this nice day. We ended up walking along the city walls. I guess we stumbled upon a SantaCon. I'd never seen anything like this, like, especially for Halloween. I thought this was like a isolated thing just in Derry, like Santa Clauses and stuff. Anyway, this was in 2007, so I didn't have Facebook at the time. I didn't do anything on the internet, so they were just like spreading cheer and goodwill during Halloween. It must have been 2 or 3 p.m. and people are already dressed for Halloween and prepared for the celebrations. It was fairly exciting, like, just, like the energy of the town. And these guys were pretty cool. Randomly bumping into these guys in these old winding city streets. Laser pointers were popular, I guess, at that time. I was uncertain how long the live band had been playing, but it was starting to get dark, so we needed to head back to the hostel to get a costume. On the way, we ran into Elvis and the drummers. Like, everyone just like formed a circle around Elvis. I don't know. He just looked like some drunk guy off the street harassing the drummers. And then he just like grabs the sticks from them and by now it was just after 5 p.m. and we probably really need to get into costume. I'd like to take a moment to consider the only other Halloween parade I've ever seen. In Salem, Massachusetts, they have quite the history also involving Halloween, all due to some incidents in 1692 that put at least 20 people to death for the accusations of practicing witchcraft. Since at least the early 20th century, the witch tourism has been a major part of Salem's economy. During Halloween, the town comes alive with food and souvenirs stands while people in costumes fill the streets.
You can pick up tickets to Into the Witching Hour, outdoor ticket booth. And folks scary all day long in the neighborhood. We have two.
So, Salem has always been a big party during the Halloween season. And this is what I'm used to, I guess, so. On this website, you can see what events are happening, but I find the streets are usually enough entertainment for me. That only lasts until the cops break it all up, send us home. Back in Derry, Ireland, we were a bit drunk and waiting for the parade. It is legal to drink outdoors a bit. I kind of made my own costume, and at that moment I felt like I was in the presence of the king once again.
Here, all the fat people have to go to the back now. If you have bacon and eggs today, you need to move back.
I had no idea what this lady was talking about at the time. Actually, it was very similar to Salem, Mass. We were all just walking around showing off costumes, looking at costumes before the parade. And when it begins, you get knocked back and crowded together.
He's coming over here.
Anyways, here's the parade. At the end, you just followed the parade down the road, and there was like fireworks, like right in this park or wherever we were. I had no idea where we were.
We don't have it. I'm appreciating the costume. We're bringing this tradition back home. Be like, hey man, where did you get your mustard outfit from? That's so funny. The internet. What side?
Hell, where the hell are you from?
New Zealand.
New Zealand? I love New Zealand. I ain't go down work experience.
Too late. We don't celebrate Halloween.
New Zealand like Christmas hope.
Afterwards, we joined up with everyone from the hostel at the bar in the center. A hot Canadian girl there, and a couple Germans, Chinese guy, like many different people. We all just drank, and I photographed people while drunk. Anyways, I went back to the hostel and we all drank more. Anyways, that was my mistake for many reasons. Totally drunk and stupid. Not totally, like living like honestly. Drinking can be just drunk and stupid. I say don't take my word. That night I just fell asleep with all my stuff in my pockets and totally smashed everything. The following day I didn't say goodbye to many people and just kind of walked to Dublin for some reason. Just walk and like sleep in fields or something, but well, that didn't work out so good. After like a couple hours of walking, I just decided to hitchhike instead. And then when I got to Dublin, because of that, it was there was no money changers open, so I was stuck with like all this Northern Ireland money, which it turns out no one accepts that. So except for one place, which they charged me like extra just because, and it was probably like $140 for like the crappiest accommodations I've ever had. So I tried couchsurfing.org. Like, it was a website that New Zealand girl told me about. You create a profile, yeah, you ask people if you could stay on their couch when traveling, and then, you know, you can offer your couch or whatever when they visit you. And there are many reasons why people would let strangers stay on their couch for free, but as an American, I thought it was just really suspicious. Someone responded to like my ad, and I got to stay with the guy for a few days. So I stayed over there for a few days, mostly just walked around like... Everything was always closed, like... Guinness factory was always closed for some reason, or because I woke up late, I don't know. I really enjoyed the Phoenix Park. It was really beautiful, and I didn't even get to see the whole place. I just walked around for a few hours. Oh well. And then on the way back, I was accosted by these like little Irish kids. Just had no idea what they were saying, but they wanted me to take pictures of them with my camera, and I have a film camera, so they couldn't even see the pictures. So it was like, and then on the way back, there was like a horse show near the Jameson Whiskey Distillery, somewhere near there. It was okay. And that night, I sent a message to the French girl inviting her to like a Halloween party at the Hungarian guy's place. He was pretty much a party animal, worse than like anyone I've ever met. So, you know, that night I got back at like 4 a.m., woke everybody up at the couchsurfing host's place, and the next day I spent the rest of my money on absinthe and ate everything in my host's refrigerator while drinking more. Yeah, I was a bad guest. Then I went home.